We are live. Samus Fandiari here. Aaron Larsoul across from me. We are recording this after a 132-95 Warriors win over the San Antonio Spurs. Much needed positive juju after what was kind of a disappointing loss in Sacramento that took the Warriors to 0-7 on the road. We're going to consider this kind of like a recap of both games type of thing. But Aaron?
Yes?
I think we got to start with the most important question of the show, which is Jimmy Garoppolo courtside with Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Kyle Juszczyk.
Yeah, the entire white skill position contingent of the 49ers, yes.
Oh, I do appreciate when you get cross Bay Area sports. Love when in the courtside. Friday night you had Debo and Ayuk at the game against Cleveland, the one where Steph hit
everything.
Yes, actually, I was trying to single in on a single bucket, and you were correct. It was everything. It just one of those type of nights. But yeah, Warriors 6-8 right now. There's a lot of things to talk about, but I feel like the overarching first theme from the Spurs game is Jordan Poole.
Yes, and this was his first, and especially in the first half, this was his breakout. And the bench, including the pool party lineup, but it basically anytime Steph is not out there, the bench everybody else has been a disaster. Tonight was his best game of the season, and it felt for quite a bit like Steph felt passive, but it was okay. And this was the first game that Steph did not lead the team in scoring. And this was the first game that kind of felt like, oh, wait, there's that guy. There's Jordan Poole, the guy that we have seen before, the guy that the Warriors committed, $10,000 million, $11 million to. There he was.
You're listening to the Pacific Catch post-game show, the Light Years Pacific Catch post-game show, Sustainable West Coast Eating. Wednesday, we have an announcement about their new food lineup.
Okay.
You guys are going to be very excited about this. I am personally excited about it because I've sampled it. But I am...
Me and you are going. I'm coming in town Saturday. Me and you are going.
Absolutely. Locations in every county in the Bay Area. Easily my favorite takeout spot. My go-to for Warrior games. But I'm not at liberty to talk about said menu until Wednesday, until our son's post-game show. So this is what we like to call a little teaser till we get there. But let's get to what you're talking about. So Jordan Poole's best game of the season. Also starting, Klay Thompson sitting on the back-to-back. Jordan Poole, 13 for 20, 36 points, 29 minutes. He could have gone for 50. 36 and 3/4. Very impressive. It wasn't just the buckets. We know he can get hot. We know he can get as hot as anyone not named Steph Curry.
Or Klay.
He can score with the best of them.
Yes.
It was how in flow they played that was encouraging. It felt like Warriors basketball. This early season has not felt like Warriors basketball. It's felt like the Kelly Oubre era, which no one asked for a return to that.
You were a Wanamaker fan, so
one
of these days I'm going to release the text. But you were a Wanamaker.
I held
fan.
this. You know what? I was like a person who bought a little too much into FTX. I over leveraged there. I got burnt. Was not my best take. That's just a factual statement. I thought Wanamaker would be able to hit a shot. I'm just sorry. I thought he would be able to hit a shot at some point.
As it relates to Poole, I think that from what I've seen this year, it was his most decisive game. And he has all that stuff. He has the handle package. He has all of that, but he is best when he is decisive. meaning straight line drives, using that handle to get to the rim. He's a good finisher at the rim, or catch and shoot stuff. He's a good passer. He's had some issues with that, with turnovers earlier in the year, but it felt like his most decisive game today. And I think that was largely why he was so successful. And do you think it's a coincidence that, and look, I'm not like LeBron has done this sort of thing. Kobe used to kind of do this sort of thing. And so I'm not suggesting it. I'm actually curious. I don't know the answer to this. After Steph came out and was the most boisterous about how poorly the bench has been playing, though some guys in the past have said, okay, like I'm gonna take a step back and you guys got it. Do you think it's coincidental that happened today and Jordan looked like Jordan again today?
I think so. Here's what I think. Jordan Poole started today, and he only starts when Klay sits, at least right now. And Jordan has looked his best with the Warriors when he's played around high IQ players. Let's just call it what it is. The Warriors' motion offense is based off the idea that front court players predominantly can make decisions to find guards relocating.
Yes.
If you're Steph Curry, it doesn't matter because you can hit garbage at like a freakishly efficient rate. For most people, if you're going to play that way, if Jordan Poole is not, if you're not going to give him the ball quick, he's going to get stuck into taking kind of a difficult 18 dribble shot, right? And he was doing a lot of that in the early part of the season. Play him around Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Looney, Wiggins. He gets in a rhythm. And then, like every good player, once you start feeling it, the hoop gets huge and you're not stopping him. I do think he looked a lot better playing next to the starters. It also speaks to how weak the bench was in the early part of the season, because last year's bench had a lot of veterans on it. Otto Porter, veteran. GP2, veteran. Damian Lee and Juan Toscano-Anderson, for all the criticism they got. Those are 29-year-old players who just fundamentally got what the Warriors wanted to do. Bielitsa, those guys are all veterans. So I think for the first part of the season, Jordan Poole is in a lineup that was incapable of playing that way. But it's the Warriors, and Steve Kerr is going to bludgeon them to try to play that way. He got stuck in this no man's land of not knowing whether to create or what to do. And that's the type of thing that's Jordan Poole into dribble in circles mode, which is where he's not his best, right? So I think it all ties together, but it just reminds you, if you get Jordan Poole functioning in the right lineup, like, he is a dangerous, dangerous player.
Yes. And especially when he can play off of the space he gets from Steph, or theoretically in a pool party lineup with Klay also. Even when Klay is not shooting the ball well, he is still a 5-alarm fire every time he touches the ball. And you know what was interesting to me, and I'm trying to put a fine point on this, but early in the game, even when the Warriors were winning the minutes, the Warriors are at an athletic disadvantage at just like against everyone, it seems like. And so the way to and that just makes the game so difficult.
You got to execute at a higher level.
You have to execute. You have to be smart, and you have to be skilled. And the Warriors have the execution and the smarts and the skills to overcome that. But then when the bench comes, I mean, the only guys that are not at an athletic disadvantage against most of the league are Kuminga and Wiseman. But they are clearly not ready yet. I think Kuminga should be playing more, but they're not ready yet. So
best game of the season, we'll get to them a little later.
What it takes to overcome the athletic disadvantages is the smarts and the skill and the execution. And the Warriors bench just doesn't have that. So when they're trying to run the same stuff, the same precise stuff, and they're an athletic disadvantage because they are, and they don't have the skill and the IQ for it, I think this is why the Warriors are getting in trouble with the bench, because the starters have the IQ and skill and reps, et cetera, to overcome their physical disadvantages. And the bench, when they're still trying to play Steph ball, they don't have that, which is why there was an interesting, I think it was in The Athletic today. And I think I've seen you tweeting about it.
Friend of the show, Mark. Yeah.
So back in the day, when the bench would try to slow the game down and take possessions out of it. Right, when you're the worst
Draymond was
team,
talking about this. Yeah,
when you're the worst team in college football, right? If you slow the game down and make fewer possessions, it's fewer chances for the better athletes.
And we see this
beat
more
you.
in college basketball than any other sport. It's like you're not trying to run with Kentucky. You're trying to make it a single possession. You're trying to slow it down the whole way.
I think because of Poole mostly and his like discount Steph act, when the bench often keeps trying to do the same thing and playing fast and shooting a bunch of threes, and they're not capable of doing that. So the possession game gets too big, and instead of losing those minutes 12 to 8, they lose them 26-4, and then the Spurs have to come back in and bail them out.
Which is an interesting point, and it does speak to kind of the Warriors. It's like Steph's explosive. Let's just keep it close when he's off the floor and trust 30 is going to be fine if we don't like put him in a 10-point hole, which is what they've been doing most of this year. So I thought that was an interesting point that Draymond brought up and you brought up right there. Let's get back to the Jordan Poole thing. This is going to be an obvious question that people are going to ask. Klay Thompson's playing awful. We can talk through all the reasons. I think he opened the season out of shape. I think
he didn't play over the summer or in preseason. Yeah,
he wasn't in game shape. And I don't think he's made full amends with his body in terms of who he is now. Physically.
He said on the broadcast he's 100%. I think he's lying,
but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Like
he's lying, but that's what he said.
I'm not sure he's comfortable with who he is as an athlete relative to who he was prior. Jordan Poole looked pretty fucking good next to starters today. Do they need to consider lineup changes?
They won't. So it's almost not worth discussing because they won't. They just won't.
Are you sure they won't?
Should they? I don't know. But there is no chance. There is a 0.0% chance that Steve Kerr is sending Klay Thompson to the bench. It's just not happening. And let's be fair. Klay Thompson played more minutes in the playoffs than anybody else on the Warriors last year, and they won the title. But Klay's not right. Klay isn't right. And I think it is mostly like the defense, that guy that was among the best defenders on planet Earth, I think that guy's gone. I think he can still be fine. I think he can still be fine. I think he can still be good.
I think he was
because he's smart.
A lot of the playoffs, yeah.
He's smart and he's still big and strong. Like I think he can be fine. Elite, no, I don't think he can do that anymore. I think the biggest issue is Klay. Klay is still going to be one of the best handful of shooters on planet Earth. He just is. I think the problem, though, is because Klay is searching for that previous Klay, that gets him into some bad habits offensively, putting the ball on the ground too much, fading, hunting shots. So I think he's developed some bad habits offensively because he's not that guy anymore physically. If Klay is willing to be a shooter and just a shooter as opposed to a guy that is
the normal shooter for most teams, yeah.
Yes. Then I think he can still be. Then I think he can still be elite. But I think it's almost a moot point because he's not going to get benched. And to his credit, because of the history he is still a 5-alarm fire for every single defense. Every time he touches the ball. So
no one wants even if he's not making shots. No one wants to be the team that he finds his old self against.
And he will, right? He will. He's going to find that sometimes. It's not going to be as often. But I think a lot of the problem, and we saw this early in his comeback, is he is searching a lot for Game 6 Klay, which gets him into doing things that he didn't do previously because he's hunting shots too much.
Do you think? Well, take out that. Do you think it would even benefit the team to swap him? Because part of me feels like the more Klay is not superstar Klay, the more it's better for him to play with good players as opposed to being in a bad lineup where he's hunting even worse shots. You know what I'm saying?
So that's the thing. I think that somebody who is going to lift up this Klay. I think somebody that is going to lift up an offense mostly by themselves. Jordan Poole has a much better chance at it than Klay does. So just because of what he can do off the bounce still, and he's going to have the ball in his hands more. So no, I don't think it's also, and again, it simply isn't going to happen. Like there isn't a world in which Steve Kerr benches Klay. It's just not going to happen.
Not anytime. It's not happening soon. All right. Friend of the show.
This could happen for 2 more years and then maybe he would think about it. But like it's just not happening.
Yeah, maybe. Friend of the show, Shayna Rubin, tweets what Steve Kerr said in the postgame press conference on potentially starting Jordan Poole more given his performance tonight. Kerr says, "It's not something I'm thinking about right now. Our starting 5 with Klay has been really good this year. The bigger thing is finding the right combinations off the bench." There you go. Steve essentially echoing what Aaron's saying. Also, like we all knew he was going to say that, like, let's be real.
Well, you know what? I think the bigger issue as it relates to this is I think the Warriors need to find, because the Poole party lineup hasn't been any good either, playing both of them. And I think that is because there isn't in the past, whether it was Otto Porter, whether it was Kevin Durant, whether it was Andre Iguodala, whether it was Sean Livingston, whether it was Harrison Barnes, that the Warriors had a big forward that you could play with Draymond at center that worked. And that guy just doesn't exist.
Well, I was talking about this Otto Porter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't exist because JaMychal has been bad. So it just doesn't exist on this roster at this time. So I don't think there is something like that fastball that the Warriors have always had with Draymond at center. The only option at this point feels like the Poole party lineup, which has been bad so far this year, right? If Wiggins has to be that guy, it seems like.
So let's talk a little bit about tonight. So things that did work for the Warriors. The second unit played well against the Spurs. It also cost them the game the night before against the Kings, and one night's good second unit is not what has been the case going forward for most of the year for this team. So searching. To me, positives I saw for the second unit it's the first time they reinserted JaMychal Green. It wasn't perfect, but they played him at the 5. I think for purposes of the Warriors, he's just a 5. He's not a 4, So that's a 1.
Yeah, because he's not good playing next to Draymond, so he has to be. Yes, agreed.
And he's also not like skilled enough to play the 4 for the Warriors. The 4 for the Warriors is a wing. It's you got to be a playmaker. So Anthony Lamb played the 4 next to him. Anthony Lamb's been, I don't want to call him a revelation, but like he's maybe the 8th man in the rotation, and
which has its own concerns, but yes.
No, it goes both ways. It both speaks to how he fundamentally gets what the Warriors want to do and how everyone they brought for the bench fundamentally doesn't. So they have to find a two-way guy who does. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, you are correct. If your two-way signing who you did not even invite to camp and you figured 2 weeks into camp has superseded everyone, there's a roster construction question. But at the same time, we can also speak about him as who he is as a player and kind of how it's positive. What are you seeing from him that you think, clearly he's like very trusted by Steve. Why do you think that is?
Because he's a Warriors guy, because he's a little older and he knows where to be. I mean, look, he's also made, I don't know, what did he make, 4 or 5 threes tonight, and made 4 or 5 threes in, I think it was New Orleans. He made 4 or 5 threes. So he's a pretty good shooter, but Steve likes the steady hand. I mean, this is also why Ty Jerome is on the team, right? And Steve likes that archetype of player. He feels most comfortable.
And he can shoot.
He can shoot. No, he can shoot. Again, what was he, 4 or 5 or 5 of 6 tonight?
I mean, and it's not just this game. He's been hitting
New Orleans. He made 4 or 5 threes in New Orleans.
open
too,
shots on a, he's open. It's a good look. Whether it goes in or out, it's a good look.
But so the Warriors system and Jordan Poole talked about this with Tolbert and Mullen, the Run TMC guys, which was interesting.
Shout out Flamingo.
Sam, what's your favorite animal, by the way?
Probably. Clearly, you can tell I'm not a big animal guy. Now.
Yeah, okay.
Because I can't. Just because I answer it on.
But so
impulse, but I'm going with a bulldog because they're just.
Okay.
They're just
okay.
You know,
all right. They talked about it on the broadcast about how he just like knows how to play and knows what to do, and that makes him feel very Warriors-y. Like I kind of don't get it, but
really,
no, I mean I don't know. I do get it because he is like he's fine. He knows what to do, but he's not good enough to really like make an impact. So I don't get why. Well, here's what I think. I think the two-way guys, the two-way slots were just given to Steve Kerr and said, "Do what you want to do." But I don't get playing them over the guys you're trying to develop. I don't like. I do. I don't get why Lamb is playing over Kuminga.
Let me answer that real quick. I'm gonna cut you off here.
Go
answer
for
that, and then we got a good super chat question.
Your show.
I don't give a fuck about the development projects. The priority is Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
None of these guys will be as good as him. That's not even up for debate.
Nobody the Warriors will ever have on their franchise in the history of the Warriors franchise will be as good as Steph Curry.
There's like 4 players in NBA history I feel comfortable saying are better than Steph Curry.
This is it, Warriors fans. I'm
playing the odds. He's a god. Go for it. And you know what? Anthony Lamb, he has his limitations. He's definitely a system player.
Yes.
But in the Warriors system, he's useful. And I'm tired of development projects over the prioritization of the system, which has brought 4 titles and works best around Steph. So fine, I get it, even though I do get your, like, I think my honest opinion is Steve is using this as a message to upper management to be like, this guy's better than the guys you gave me. And this guy might not be an NBA player. Or not like maybe, you know,
I mean, like he hasn't been anywhere else.
Yeah, but you get what I'm getting at there.
No, fine. I don't disagree with you.
So
then trade him.
Maybe. But I do think it's important that when we're talking about 2 timelines, that we remember there's really only one timeline that matters. Like, it's cute, it's fun. Mm-hmm. We all want the scenario that they find a guy and we don't have to deal with the rebuild. It's life, right? I think it's more important you just ride with what you have with Steph Curry. Tim, you want to bring up the first super chat first, then we get to the second one? From the Based Mugs, Jakob Pertl. Took me a long time to figure out how to pronounce his name for whatever reason. Look good tonight.
He looks good all the time because he's just like, he's a good NBA player, and what he does well is very noticeable because it's so frustrating to the opposition. He's an incredible offensive rebounder, and
good passer.
He can just play. He can just play, but him on the offensive glass is so frustrating to fans of the other team that it sticks out. He's just plainly a good player. He is good at basketball.
Would you trade Wiseman and a future asset for him? Because I think the pie in the sky scenario, because their contracts match. That's why it's always going to be that conversation. Mm-hmm. They both make about $9.5 million. And that's part of the reason Wiseman's always going to be the trade conversation piece, not only because he's not playing well, but also because he has a contract that is
Those
substantial enough that
those
you can
mid-tier contracts
yeah,
are the
yeah,
ones that
you can find,
those are
because
the ones that get traded.
as far as I'm concerned, as frustrating as the Warriors are right now, they're like a bench veteran tweak away from being the Warriors, like um and that's in some ways that makes them more frustrating, but that's a different conversation. I don't think they could acquire Pirtle for just Wiseman based off of how Wiseman's playing right now and like the general outside of the Warriors general perception of him is bust, flyer project, right? Like if you're another team, what do you think of Wiseman? You're like, I'll take a flyer on him, but I'm not like paying you for it, right?
So actually, I mean, the Spurs are kind of a unique case because what are they trying to do this year, next year, or the year after anyway?
Sure, but if you're the Spurs, don't you ask for more?
Of course you do. Of course you do, because Jakob Poeltl is better at basketball than James Wiseman.
He's objectively a starter on most teams in the league. Yeah,
I don't think it's. I think it's a question though for the Warriors, because whose minutes is Pirtle's not taking Wiseman's minutes, right? He would be taking Looney's minutes, and so the improvement in that case is probably incremental.
Or is he taking Lamb and JaMychal Green's minutes? If you think of it from the perspective,
are those guys playing in the playoffs though?
Looney, yeah, but Looney's only playing 24 minutes a game.
Are those guys playing in the playoffs though?
Looney's
and you're not playing Pirtle and Looney and Draymond at center in the playoffs.
Of course you are.
No, not in the playoffs. You're playing all three of them in the playoffs at center?
Yes. I do hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I wouldn't. He doesn't solve. You're not solving the stretch four, but like I do think you're improving the roster.
Absolutely. He is better at basketball than James Wiseman, and it's not close.
Does adding a veteran like that, even though he's not the perfect fit, he's just the idea of Pirtle and Looney playing 48 minutes, like it's an attractive center combination for the Warriors, right? Like they both fit what you need. It's productive, defensive anchor, passing hub minutes, like they make sense
in the regular season.
And then it might make the game easier for a Moses Moody, for a Jonathan Kuminga. All of a sudden, you're at 55 wins instead of 45 wins. Made a liberal jump right there in my mind. But like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
you're counting Senate seats, okay?
The idea of adding a veteran who is reliable and fits the system can do a lot to make everyone a little better.
On team. I agree. I agree with that completely. I just don't know that because of how little the Warriors want to play a traditional center when games matter.
You don't love the idea of putting that many resources into essentially a guy who they're going to like, it's him or Looney, right?
Correct. And when things really matter and when the Warriors are really trying to win games, we've seen for 7 years, it's going to be Draymond at center. So I don't know that I want to put that kind of resources into that's what Kevon Looney is for. Kevon Looney gets to absorb all of those minutes that you don't want Draymond to have to absorb at center in the playoffs. And he's become damn good at it. And I was wrong, and he's been much better. But to get another like traditional plotting center,
so you're saying
it helps in the regular season, I guess, but in the playoffs,
you'd rather wait it out and see if you can get another player who amplifies your playoff rotation than just go for like that move.
The Warriors need another guy that can play alongside their best players.
We got another super chat from Awesome. I like this question. It's despondent. It's perfect. All right.
You like it because it's despondent?
Is this a lost season? Is a trade coming?
We don't know the answer to that until June. The Warriors
The Warriors
are going to make the playoffs. Period. The Warriors are going to make the playoffs.
So you don't think it's a lost season?
No, the Warriors are going to make the playoffs. This has
So
not been
I
good so
think
far,
the
but the Warriors are going to make the playoffs, and then let's see. The two timeline thing, right? It's such an interesting argument because is it working this year? No. Did it work last year? I mean, you could say no, but the Warriors won a goddamn title last year. So yeah, it kind of worked last year. So
relax.
I like
Um,
the process isn't great. I agree with that, but the results are what they are. The Warriors are the defending champions while going through the two timeline thing. So I don't know. It is not a lost season. The Warriors are going to make the playoffs.
yeah, I
Like
agree. I agree.
you
I
can have
think
whatever expectation once the Warriors make the playoffs. What's good enough and what's not good enough. I think that's a fair conversation to have. How more difficult is it in the playoffs, or are there injuries and whatever because of whatever like going through the mud is happening right now by choice?
sure.
Mostly, that's a fair conversation. But the Warriors are going to make the playoffs.
It's too early to say it's a lost season. Do I think they need to make a trade? I think so, but I'm willing to also wait that one out just before definitive. But I understand the question. I think the start's been disgusting. Um,
I mean, they're 0-7 on the road. That's pretty
yeah,
hideous.
let's we have a topic to get to
All right.
before we move there, and we haven't discussed we haven't discussed Jonathan Kuminga, who had his best game of the season for the Warriors tonight. Plus 24, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 5-7, 3 of 4 on 3. What?
I didn't start him in fantasy.
Of course you didn't.
I've been holding on to. He's been sitting. He's been sitting. He's been sitting on my bench. He's been sitting on my bench. That's my lottery ticket for when he becomes a superstar.
Just to be clear, I picked up Dante DiVincenzo tonight. So, and a start.
Wow, you're really down bad.
I was just playing the lineup game. But anyway, that's a different conversation. Did you see anything that you want to comment on about, because he's been, in my opinion, he is the highest upside of the 3 young guys. He's the one that if you were to offer me a trade, I'm protecting the most. He's the guy who I think has the highest upside, and he's had a rough go of it, but I thought tonight you saw exactly how good he could be.
So there's a lot here. I actually think Wiseman has the highest upside. I just think that he has the lowest chance of reaching it. So, like, right? I think Wiseman has an A+ upside. I just think he has like a 1% chance of reaching even B+ upside. So I think most outcomes have Kuminga as a higher upside, better player. So I don't know what it was or what it is that had him sitting. Whatever lesson that Steve was trying to teach him, I don't know. But I have liked the last couple games specifically. I have liked what I've seen because he is doing a better job of leveraging his athleticism to do Warrior stuff, if that makes sense, right? Like he's been able to attack people off the fake DHO. So I've liked, hopefully whatever the problem was, the message has gotten through to him. He's not shooting a bunch of threes. He made one tonight. But yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing. And this relates to the Otto Porter Jr. question and the JaMychal question and the Draymond question is, what position is he? Because when he plays with Anthony Lamb, like it looks like the Warriors are trying to do what they can do to make him a wing. And at least at this point in his life, he's not a wing. He's a 4. He's just a 4. And he can play some small ball 5. But it looks like the Warriors
he had
want him
his
to
most
be a
success
3.
at the 3. I think it's worth noting.
Yes.
And I think I agree with you. I think he's a 4 skill-wise. But if you put the right 4 and 5 around him who can actually space the floor, he can play a wing position.
But the Warriors don't have those guys.
They got it tonight from Anthony Lamb. I honestly, that's why Lamb plays. I think you and I can argue about Lamb's upside. And I think we're probably aligned in saying he's a really good story in terms of like a G League guy who's finding a role. But
He's
like
JTA.
if we get to like late May, it's not who you want out there, right? Like that's just the reality of it, right?
Correct.
But I think he's showing proof of concept of the idea of if you give the Warriors a veteran player like Otto Porter who could play this role, then you might actually be able to develop Kuminga the way you want to.
Okay,
right?
yes, but Otto Porter was also the 3rd pick in the draft, and Lamb has been like floating around everywhere.
14 hip surgeries and back surgeries later, Otto Porter is a veteran minimum guy. So you know what I'm saying here.
Fair enough. Enough.
Like I'm not saying I'm not saying you're wrong. Like Otto's significantly more talented than his role, but his body makes him a certain role now.
Fair enough. Yes. Fair enough. You out here walking around like me. Fair enough.
Bro. I mean, it's both of us or let's get to another super chat. We got another
Let's do it.
If they lose in the second round, no trade, why wouldn't Joe double down? I think that's a fear, right? The fear is this roster, which is unbalanced. It's like It's like 7 veterans and 7 children.
That's a nice word
right?
for it.
And if they lose, it gives them cover to be like, see, we got to rebuild. Whereas I personally feel like they're 2 veteran tweaks away from being the best team in the league, because they were the best team in the league with 2 veteran tweaks last year, right? So
doesn't it kind of, I guess, in the way you're describing it, and I'm not sure I disagree with you, but doesn't that give Lake a cover either way? Because he gets to say, last year we won, like it was a complete success. Look, I'm a genius. We can do this. And then this year he can say, it sucked. We failed. So we really need to invest in the future. So what is the middle ground, or so that you have to hold Lake accountable? And by the way, I think he's right. He won last year. You and I both said you better trade some of those young guys for some guys that can help. And we were probably right.
Higher caliber players.
We were probably right, but they won anyway.
I mean, it wouldn't have hurt, but
they won anyway. So he was right.
They didn't need to. That's for sure.
So then I guess, hopefully, if he doesn't this year and runs it back and does it again and it doesn't work, then you'd hope that maybe would lead to some different thought.
I think it's too early to tell, but I don't feel confident about it. And we have an interesting post-game quote that ties into the weekend that we're going to pull up here.
Ooh,
friend of the show.
From whom?
From friend of the show, Marcus Thompson. Steve Kerr said James Wiseman is being sent to Santa Cruz tomorrow and will do an extended period to get some reps.
Yeah. So I know, at least from what I've seen on Twitter, I know a lot of Warriors fans have wanted this. I kind of don't get it, because
I know where you're going with this, but explain.
The G League is not a place, because Warriors fans are like, well, look what happened with Jordan Poole, a guy who was also really talented and struggled early. But Jordan Poole had the ball the entire time and could do whatever he wanted and work through all of his whatever things.
Right.
The G League is not a place for big guys, because all of those guys like Jordan Poole who get sent there are looking for their own. It's just a bunch of
worse Jordan Pooles.
They're looking for their own, which I understand. They're trying to get their career back on track or somewhere.
The G League big Tyler Dorsey energy.
That's exactly. That is precisely right. So I don't know. Wiseman needs reps. He does. He needs to play. And he has been so bad.
Should we loan him to a second division Spanish side?
There you go. Yeah. And that's the other thing, is that, and you have pointed this out maybe more than anybody I've seen, that one of, if not his biggest deficiency, is his aversion to contact. And look, there are pros and there are grown men, big guys in the G League, but those guys are not the physical specimens, the physical athletes that you're going to find in the NBA. So he does. I get it, because he does need to play and he does need reps. But people that he can just overwhelm physically without having to actually use contact and in a league, in a game that does not
It's just
really
up, down,
feature big
3-point, 3
guys.
point. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't like I
Well,
don't know what
in
he really
some
does.
ways, I think it's a good thing because I don't. My biggest issue with Wiseman is he hates contact. But my second biggest
Yes.
thing is he doesn't want to do big man things in the Warriors system. He wants to be fed the ball in the post.
Because that's the only thing he's comfortable doing at this point.
Sure, he needs to learn how to be comfortable getting the ball off the glass. He needs to learn how to be comfortable setting a screen and crashing hard.
Yeah,
Those
but
are
when he's playing
things.
against guys that are not like his physical equals, I mean, look,
Sure,
even in the
I
NBA,
get
guys
where
aren't his physical equals.
I
But
get what you're saying. You're like he's not going to learn that in the G League.
No,
Sure, but I
no,
do
but I
think
also understand. Like, what else are you going to do? Because he's not going to play for the big club. So what else are you going to do? I get the thinking. I wouldn't have high expectations about it.
Yeah, I think actually, if anything, going down to the G League's probably about building up his mental confidence. Because as whatever you think of him, he's playing below his ability right now.
I agree with that.
I think he's slow defensively. I think he's got a lot of work to do to be a positive player, but he's like, at least as a rookie, he played with a little more aggression than this. And right now it's just kid lost, not sure what he should do, not trying to step on other people's toes.
He has all-time great tools.
And he does, and he's lost right now. So if they can just get him mentally on track, maybe that helps. But yeah,
you know what it reminds me of when I was in Portland. It reminds me so much of Greg Oden. Greg was better than him, but
Greg had better success than him in the
Greg
pros,
when Greg played, he was better. But what like the weight of for Greg being the number 1 pick and Wiseman being the number 2 pick, the weight of that was so much for it was for Greg and it seems for James. Like it was just so much. And then they both got hurt. And like the pressure of being hurt and not being able to contribute and watching in Greg's case, Kevin Durant, and in James's case, LaMelo and Ant like have some success.
Desmond Bane
Feels like it like really affected them, weighed on them both mentally. I know it did for Greg. It seems from the outside like it does for James. And that can be something that just breaks you. But they are both so physically talented. Greg was better when he played than James has been so far. But the like overwhelming physical talent.
There's a limited number of people who have that type of athleticism plus touch at that, and then they don't have that size. So no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I just so like I guess go to the G League because it's not working. It's something else to try. I just would not have high expectations about it because it's not the league for that.
Well, we'll leave it there. The Warriors beat the San Antonio Spurs tonight, 1-1 in the back-to-back.
Tim Hardaway's excited because it was actually a 30-point win, so we can all go home happy now.
I appreciate you, brother.
Anytime.